Hello, dear viewer. Welcome to Feisty Chess. I've been paired as white against Vijay Kumar VD on chess.com in a 15-10 game, and looks like we're going to have a French defense. Alright, I was about to play the French defense myself as black in another game before my last opponent aborted. So this is the first time I'll be playing against the French as white. I'll play my usual stuff. It's been a long time. Knight c3 is the main move here. Bishop e4, the win-hour, is probably the most common approach, although it's also the classical, which is what I like to play. Okay, let's get feisty with this. I'm going to play the Alekhine-Chittard gambit, if I'm allowed here. Bishop g5. He might go for bishop b4, which is the McCutcheon variation, which I don't know very well. But okay, he's going for the main stuff. And now after e5, knight d7. The Alekhine-Chittard gambit is h4. So he can take twice on g5, but this gives white a lot of initiative. It's a bit of a novelty here. Okay, knight e4. Taking on e7 seems the most natural. I think he would have to recapture with his queen, at which point I play knight takes e4. And I've got his pawns doubled without too clear of a way to attack them. Maybe queen g4. Queen g4 looks good after all that. So, critical question is, after bishop takes e7, can he go knight takes c3? I think I come out on top there. We have to look at some desperado ideas. So bishop takes e7, knight takes c3, bishop takes queen, knight takes queen. And then I've got, I could simply take, and that's just even, and he's got the bishop pair. So I've got bishop takes c7, and he's got knight takes b2. And after okay, it looks interesting. Looks actually pretty playable. My other option is knight takes e4. Look deep into bishop takes e7. Let's look at knight takes e4. You could just go for the recapture, in which case I can transpose to that other line, ending in queen g4. So if I take on e4 and he takes on g5, I recapture on g5, and he's got his queen on g5, and actually I have some initiative without having given up a pawn. I'll make sure I'm counting the pieces right. I've got his knight and bishop, he's got my knight and bishop, and it's his good bishop. So after queen takes on g5, I think, yeah, I can chase it away with knight f3, or even knight h3. This is a tough decision. I can prevent him from castling in this line. I'm going to go for this queen trade line. Okay, he just goes for the recapture. Okay, I like knight takes. And then queen g4, although I have to maybe take care to play c3. Maybe the immediate queen g4 is good. And then queen b4 is still an idea. It's pretty tactical. I've always got the resource of knight d2, knight g to e2 if I need to support that knight. Or you know what, I could simply welcome this, and I've got a much better bishop than him. And I can play with this winnower type of imbalance, having traded off my bad bishop. Let's welcome this capture on c3. I'll have Greek gift ideas with that powerful bishop. I'm not sure about that. Knight takes, pawn takes, c3, c5. I don't know if I have time to get in queen g4. So queen g4 right now is probably the way to do this. Then he's got queen g5, and that sort of defuses everything. Okay, I'm going for bishop d3 here. He can take my knight. I'll accept this. How do I do that? Accept this pawn structure. He could try f5. Okay. So now I've got this fearsome-looking bishop. If he ever decides to castle kingside, I've got real ideas of queen h5 or even bishop takes h7. My king might be safe in the middle here. I might have ideas of h4. With supporting knight g5. Okay. Do I want to push f4 or do I want to get my knight to f3? Or maybe I want to go queen g4 now to see if I can get him to castle. That looks strong. That looks really strong, actually. You might just need to play g6 here. That might be the best move. In which case, h4 looks pretty good. I'm looking at ways I might route a knight to h6 or f6 in that case. I don't see any easy paths there. After g6, maybe h4, delaying that knight development. Just planning on pushing h5. And he's got h5 himself. Okay, going for this kind of counterplay. Maybe knight to e2 makes sense here. Can I take on g7? Do I have mate threats? Queen takes g7, queen takes c3, king e2, queen takes a1, queen takes h8 check. Oh, he's got his knight to cover. So let's either play king d2 is awfully committal. I think knight e2 is also kind of committal because my bishop is somewhat stuck, but I've still got initiative against his kingside pawn. So let's yeah, let's go here. Oh, coming right back to f8. This is a big concession, it seems like. It seems like I can just castle and try to open up the center now. Let's do that. Let's just get the king safe. Get rid of a lot of complications on my side. Okay. The knight needs a new place. If he wants to play c4, I can't imagine that allows him a lot of counterplay. So I need to move the knight so my bishop can retreat in case of c4. g3 looks like a good square. And I'll just drop back to e2 if he goes for c4. I'm planning f4 here. He doesn't have a knight he can bring to c6. Okay. This should be fine for me. Slows down the game a bit, but I've got ideas of f4, f5. He's going to play g6 anyway. Okay. Okay. His king will take up residence in the center. He's got a big weakness on d6. I'm just going to play a4. Take control of the a3 square. So his queen can invade. Okay, he's going to try to kick my queen around some. Okay, I need to go queen h4 here. Otherwise my knight's going to be really bullied back to h1. But I'd actually anticipated maybe playing king knight h1 and then routing the knight through f2. But that looks a little too long-winded. I guess we'll blockade this with our queen for now. The knight has no future otherwise. Maybe the bishop can come to f3 and the knight can get routed through e2. And I've got f4 if he tries to prepare g5. And I've got a heck of a pawn center here. Heck of a fly buzzing around my head as well. Okay, he wants to trade queens, of course. And this all makes sense. Okay, I have to do this, and I have to trust that my advantage will last here. I could just play a rook over to b. Yeah, this makes sense. rook f to b1, and I'm eyeballing b7, and my knight has f1 to retreat to. I could also just play h4 here. Gives me some left, and yeah, shuts down that rook's activity. He's going to want to play b6 anyway to get his bishop somewhere, but the bishop really has no real future now that he's put every pawn on a light square. So we're going to count on some long-term compensation. Meanwhile, my bishop is kind of trapped too, but I can engineer some breakthroughs. With some preparation, maybe like a g4 breakthrough to kind of chip away at the cage his pawns are building around my bishop. But he doesn't have that option with his pawns on that color and his bishop being trapped. You notice his knight doesn't really have any good prospects either. If it ever goes to b6, I can just kick it with a5. So he might want to play a5 himself. But then I've got a lot to work with on the a file. I can get my rook to, one of my rooks to b1, plan it on b5 maybe. So far, we're just kind of shutting down Black's counterplay. The French, yeah, here goes a5, okay. He doesn't like the idea of me playing a5. So yeah, we're going to need to reroute our knight. Maybe just getting f4 in would be good here. Just strengthening our grip over those dark squares. And then well, let's get this rook over here. I think the rooks want to be over there. He can't play knight b6 now. He might be able to get his rook to the 6th rank. But I can double on the b file enough to make a knight move to b6 kind of useless. I don't know if that's worth it. He can get his bishop to d7 to attack a4, so how do I improve here? I think it involves moving this knight. Actually, a4 is going to turn out to be a bit of a weakness, isn't it? Wants knight to b6. That seems like a misplaced rook. I don't have to trade. I can just continue to improve. Does my knight want to come to g5? I can engineer that. Let's get this knight to e2. He's very flexible. d2, he's very flexible from there. Yeah, if he takes on b1, then my rook sitting on the b file will really shut him down. I think he should have played knight to b6. Okay, he's going for the f6 break. Let's just reinforce with f4. Keep our big center. e6 is a real weakness now, as is g6. And I can't get at g6 as easily. King f2 looks like a sensible move. Maybe even g3. Also ideas of king h2, king h3, and then trying to break through with g4. But he has a rook on the king side, and I don't. If I had taken on g4, sorry, f6. Okay, we're going to recapture with a rook. The rook is looking really good here. I might have ideas of sacrifices on c4. I like the idea of getting the bishop on f3. I don't know. Don't know. My knight certainly has a future on f3 and then heading to g5 or e5. Yeah, if he doesn't take on e5 now, I think I will take on f6. Just solidify those weaknesses of his. Now his bishop can't abandon the b pawn. And if I can play rook b5, okay, he's pushing past. All right. This limits our options quite a bit. Closes down the game. So, if I can play rook b5, that forces b6. Is anything gained from that? Maybe then bishop takes on c4 is a powerful sacrifice, which will net me 3 pawns for that piece, and I'll have a knight. That'll be a real beast. Alternately, I can get my knight f3 to g5, which is a real thorn in black's side, but it looks like he can just defend passively there. We don't have to commit to anything yet. We can just improve our king. Take the Karpov solution. Maybe my rook. Okay, he's going to b6 anyway. I gotta contemplate this sacrifice now. Giving up the bishop is a high price to pay, though. And it also opens a diagonal for his bishop. There must be a better way. I can get a knight. I can get my knight into b5. But he can always chop that off with his bishop. He would love to get rid of that bishop. King to e3, still just kind of improving the king. Putting the ball in his court. If he moves his bishop, maybe that tells me where I want to be going. Okay. Yeah, he's moved his bishop off the defense of some weaknesses over here. So maybe knight f3 to g5 is a plan. This also pins that pawn. Kind of. My knight doesn't really have a future on b. I'm making another waiting move. If he goes rook b8, nah. I should probably get going with some of my own plans here. His rook is not, his pawn is not pinned on b8. I'm looking at knight b3 and seeing if that gets me anything. Okay, let's just go with the standard knight outpost here. Where else would I like my knight to be? Man, d6 would be phenomenal. Okay, this gives him an isolated pawn, but it's also a passed pawn to fight against. Okay, slide the rook over here. Okay, he's going to push, and now our king my king can be a bit more active. Yeah. I don't know if I'm handling this right. This is a very complex position with 2 minutes left on the clock. B takes c3, king takes c3. We've made the pawn structure symmetrical, but then he gets his rook into b4. I guess I would just drop back with my king again and then plan on playing c3. Okay, he's going for a passed pawn here. His pawn is pinned, so he'll need to recapture with his rook. So I don't think this gets him what he think it gets him. Let's just take, and he has to take with a rook. My bishop is doing something. Okay, king slides over, and then knight d2 is an idea? I don't know if that idea gets me anywhere. Backs his rook up, and then we could possibly trade rooks, and then I'm heading into an endgame, which I'm very happy with our bishops, such as they are. So yeah, knight d2, the rook backs up, and then challenging him on the b file with rook b1. That's my plan. I think he should have taken on c3 instead of pushing. Maybe he didn't realize he couldn't create a passer. Makes that pin on that diagonal. Okay, I think I can trap his rook now. I think knight d2 just wins the exchange. Yep. I mean, he wants to activate that knight, but you gotta look at how it shuts down your other pieces. Okay, I'm glad I was improving my king and getting it over to where the action was taking place. Now this will win the exchange, but it's going to be hard to make use of this exchange. Yeah, I better just take. It'll be tricky to make use of this exchange with so many pawns on the board, but it shouldn't be terrible. Now I need to keep my bishop. He'll probably plant his bishop on c4. That would seem to make sense. Then he can give himself a protected pass pawn. I don't see anything better than just taking. Hold on, bishop d1 might be best here. And he can, yeah, bishop d1 followed by, yeah. Okay. If he ever plays b2, yeah, rook a3, I think I'm good. Rook a3, b2, king will grab that pawn with king c2. So yeah, I'm going to get that b pawn. In the meantime, I still defend that a pawn, at least for a turn. It probably is lost, but the more pawns drop off, the better my rook will be against his knight. And that b pawn really needs to be dealt with. It'll be a couple more moves until the a pawn might be a real threat here. I should be able to just blockade on a3 with my rook. And if he does nothing else, I would just take that pawn on b3. Okay, and my rook covers b3 here, so bishop b3 check doesn't work. So yeah, king here, and next move I'll be collecting that pawn. Oh, he could move his bishop, win the exchange back, but I have won a pawn. I have won a key pawn. And we'll have bad bishop versus good bishop, and I'll have that extra pawn. So, but I do need to take on b2 here. So he's got c4. This I didn't see. He's got c4 for his knight, but I'm happy with the resulting endgame because I've won a pawn, and I have a much better bishop. My king is also closer to the action. I've sworn off of pre-moves after a previous game went wrong. Not sure about the right plan here. I'm boxing his king out, which is nice. Just trying to trade bishops is one plan. So let's go for that. Add some time to our clock. Oh, he's going to allow the trade of... Can that draw for him? I can't imagine. I have an extra pawn in that king and pawn ending, but he has a way to invade. And my king, take, king b2, king c6, king c2, king d5, king d2, and he's invading on e4. But he can't really do that. He can't ever make progress because I will push. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go in for this. I've looked at it enough, and I at least can make the moves automatically here. So he can't come to the third rank, to my third rank. So I will be able to push him back. This may be a draw, though, but I had to make a quick decision here. None of us has any pawn moves. Well, he can't invade anyway. Okay. Let's just make some moves and then figure out when would be the ideal time to try to push. I might have to give up a pawn. Can't take with the pawn if I push now. Do I have any kind of breakthrough ideas on the king side? No. I push now. He has to take with the king. And then it's just a draw. I don't see a way through. Bit of a disappointing draw here. Do I have any other options? There's just no points of entry. This locked position. I shouldn't have taken that bishop. I'm not sure it mattered though. Ooh. Now I'm going to push. He has to take with the pawn. I've got a protected pass pawn, and his pawn is backwards. And now he has to... Yeah, that's another mistake. He has to move, and I'll grab that pawn. Yeah, he has no moves he can make that would protect his d5 pawn now. Now my extra pawn is a passer, and a protected passer, so this should be a straightforward win. He had a draw. He moved his king too far away and allowed me to push. So yeah, he regained the pawn, but found himself in a losing position. Actually, even here, he might be able to play king d7, or b6 even. And then I'm the one that has to back off, because it's the same position, but it's my move. No. I can now push this pawn. This is a trump card. He has to go after it. And now I'm not only gobbling that pawn, but the next. And that should be curtains for black. So key mistake here. King back to c7. He thought he had everything locked up, but he needed to be able to recapture with his king. So he needed to shuffle back and forth. King d5 and c6. c6 is actually the only square from which he can capture that, and otherwise he's got to blockade it. So, yeah, crazy ending to that game. Know your end games. He had a draw. Let's look at it. Let's look at the whole game here. Let the computer do its thing. Oh, okay. I've got a lowbrow computer now because I haven't paid my dues to chess.com, but we'll make do. Okay, now I think knight e4. I don't think that's a book move. Openings, let's see. See what openings have. It's not going to let us. I keep playing on chess.com. I try to play on Lichess more often, but it's harder to find matches on Lichess for some reason that doesn't come up as quickly in my rating range. Maybe I'll just have to be more patient in the future. They're both great sites, but I like that Lichess gives full access to all the software and stuff. So, okay. Knight e4, not a book move, I believe. It likes bishop takes e7. Also likes knight takes e4. It's kind of interchangeable. Okay, yeah, I gave up my advantage. I should have gone for the structural advantage, but I wanted to get my pieces out, and I wanted to bring about the kind of positions that could lead to a kingside attack. Maybe a bias of mine. But let's look at knight takes e4. That was the plan, and then I wanted to play queen g4, but I had to worry about queen b4 check. So, yeah, Black's got a big advantage here. So queen g4 is not the move. I was thinking c3, but then he's got c5 anyway. And if I go knight e2, I can't get my queen to g4. But maybe queen g4 is better now, because if he tries to take, I've got this in-between move. Okay, that's important. And then he's got to go rook f8. Now knight e2. Okay. Huh. Because this taking here would still lead to queen check. So knight e2. Well, that looks kind of scary because now he's got d3, knight g3, and I'm going to grab up that e pawn and with it the d pawn. He can displace my king, but he doesn't have enough for that. Guarding d3 with my bishop. So is queen g4 the move here? Yeah, that's the move. Timing it right was the issue. So I did have that variation. That would have been feistier. But we had an interesting kind of game, the kind of game that doesn't come up too often here. I mean, king and pawn endings keep coming up, but that kind of locked position was kind of novel in the games I've been playing so far. So it gives black an advantage here. It likes that structural advantage of these pawns and that weakness on c3. Knight d7 seemed a strange move instead of, say, c6. That did throw away black's advantage apparently. Queen g4. Yeah, that's the main move here. Queen h3. King d2 looks better. Keeping the option open with the knight. The king is going to be plenty safe on d2, plenty of pawn cover, and the center's locked. So, I don't know, c5 still seems to chip away at some of that. But black's got his own things he needs to deal with. So, I'm very tired of this fly. Queen f8. Yeah, this can't be that good. I think castling, yeah, castling's not that bad, but that takes a lot of guts in this kind of position. But I've already played my knight to e2, so it's not getting to g5 very quickly. So the Greek gift doesn't have the same sting. So bishop takes h7 after that would be no good. And he still has options of playing g6. And maybe g6 right here would have been reasonable as well. The computer suggests that. Queen f8 it does give, but as a pawn advantage to white. D takes c4. Interesting. Opening the game up. I guess, you know, you're giving up e5, but you're also opening up the game. D takes c4. Is this really considered here? Still likes white. Knight takes e5, hits the queen and the bishop, but what, queen d4? And we're hanging on to that that tripled pawn on c5. So yeah, some surprising variations in the French where taking on c5, even though you're giving up e5, is still the right move. And in this position, it's because the black king is still in the center, as far as I can tell, and you might have piece sacrifice opportunities to open that position up. And you know, white's mobilized with his rooks ready to go. Black's mostly sitting on the first rank, on his first rank. Okay, knight g3. Not the best move, but we're trying to give our bishop an escape square. The bishop sat on e2 most of the game, however. Does like a4. Queen g5, and then I was concerned about h4, but knight h1 must be good enough. Okay. Queen f4. Keep the queens on the board. I got more space. Got the safer king. Well, not too much safer. Taking just evens things out. h4. Computer doesn't like that. It likes rook f to b1 with the idea of rook creating a space for the knight on f1. Okay. Bishop f3. Okay, bishop f3 and then knight e3 does present a threat of, well, not really. He has in between moves, but it gives fork ideas for a knight on d5, for instance. Yeah, this f6 move gave me a lot more play. f4. And then he went for f5. Okay, it likes white after this. Actually, it's showing as the best move that black can make. King f2, rook a1. Counterintuitive move. King e3, just getting the Karpovian kind of improvement going on here. The alternative there I was looking at, interestingly, was bishop takes. And it likes black a lot better here, but my idea was just try to create this central pawn mass and maybe win a third pawn, or get this knight in as a monster on d6. But it's not enough. It's not enough for the piece sacrifice, especially since these pawns are doubled on an open file. They can present a real weakness that black can target. Yeah, it looks like I will win a third pawn here, but black just has a big advantage now. The board is opened up for his bishop as well now when those pawns are gone, so I'm glad I didn't go for that line. I like bishop b7. Okay, bishop f1. I don't know the point of a move like that. Went for g3. It says white has an advantage, but it's a really hard kind of position to capitalize on that advantage. Bishop f1 again. I don't understand the point of that. Seems like a waiting move. My idea was to get my knight maybe to g5 or somewhere. And black is equalized here, but okay. Now we're getting to some of the critical points. Is king d2 a move? Yeah, it is. But c takes b4, the computer likes better. I at least get a passer if he goes a takes b4. So it says rook takes b4 is the way to go. Pressure on a5, but now I can play c3 and my bishop can also come to 8 a5. And his bishop is just permanently shut out in that way. But I don't see a lot of things that white can really do with his knight. So rook a2. Well, anyway, it's not the way the game went. King d2, and now I think he should have taken. He takes c3. He's got nearly a pawn advantage. King takes c3, rook b4. And the plan is just to get this bishop to attack that pawn. I think I go back with king d2. You can try this, but then I get there in time. But now his rook is on the 7th. This is kind of awkward for white. Maybe this is the point of bishop f1 earlier. Nah. Knight coming to d2 ultimately, and then trying to trade that rook off. Yeah, I think this does look better for black than what happened in the game. And look, the eval shows it. Pushing here means he can't recapture with the pawn, has to recapture with the rook. And then it's because of this pin, right? And this pawn's not enough compensation, I can just blockade. So, take with the rook. Rook. Is this how the game went? Yeah. King slides over, I'm going to play knight here. So yeah, this gives a big advantage to white because of this. And at this point, I should have been easily winning. He just goes back. Knight takes b3, c takes b3, king d2. Bishop c4, rook b1. Still, I got a big advantage here. Knight b6. It likes rook b1. Yeah, so giving up on the a4 pawn was good here. I thought rook a3 was a way to not give up on the a4 pawn, but I didn't see the fork that the knight had on c4. So b2, and then this. Also, if my rook were on b1 now, I could simply take that bishop. So king takes b2, knight takes c4, and I've still got an advantage, but I've lost some of it. But let's look at the other option here. Rook b1, just get the rook in front of the pawn, blockading. There's no way to save it now. He can only take this pawn, but after this, the game will simplify into a minor piece versus a rook. And yeah, my rook is going to invade. I could even, if that pawn doesn't advance much, I can even consider like trading off that rook for the knight on c4 and gaining another pawn for it. Yeah, I can cut off his king at some. Yeah, I can. Well, there's a technique to it that I'd have to figure out, but maybe rook a1 and then rook a4 blockades the pawn and then allows me to just take on c4 and cash that rook in for an extra pawn. And I should be able to round up his a pawn. And it's the kind of situation, let me just play this out to show what this idea would be. So say he goes king d7. Well, king d7 might not be the best move there. Oh, I guess he can get his king here. He can get his king to b. He's got that fork. Ooh, never mind. That knight fork on b2 ends that idea. So, yeah, wrong way to execute that idea. And actually the best move here might be a4. We can get behind it. And he's got, and now we can find his king to the 8th rank. So yeah, king d7 might be a better idea. But this, yeah, okay. Similar winning idea here though. My king can simply come and round up this pawn, and we'll give up the exchange because we have a pawn to the good, and we should be able to convert that king and pawn ending. That's often how you have to win in a situation where you're up the exchange. Okay, that did not happen. I went rook a3. Okay, looking at some other possibilities. Rook a3, and now, was this a big mistake to trade bishops? It doesn't consider bishop takes at all. It still gives me as an advantage, but once we get to this point, yeah, I still have this advantage. So computers are often bad at this. Yeah, this is a draw, and the computer's kind of recognizing that now. 0.57. I mean, that's just calculating material and throwing that material in there, but that material is useless in this position. As long as the black king just shuffles back and forth between c6 and d5, which he can do freely because I can never put my king in a position to stop him from going either of those squares. So yeah, this should have been a draw. I wonder, and the computer might not be able to tell us this, I wonder if it's still a draw at this point. Maybe he just plants his king on c6, shuffles back and forth between that and b6. And what does my bishop do? I can't even try to create a passer by force by a bishop sack, say on f5. That wouldn't be worth it anyway. So I think, yeah, we're already drawn here. But anyway, he could capture here, and he's just got a bishop to the good, he'll win. So I think rook a3 was the critical mistake for me that led to a draw. The computer's not going to recognize that though, because it still has like a 2-point advantage at this point, because I'm up a pawn. But that pawn, even though I've got the spectacular better bishop, and I can force a trade of bishops, black can set up a fortress with kings and pawns, because there's so many pawns on the board. It's a locked position. There's no points of entry for my king. There's no pawn breaks left to make in the position. So yeah, I took, and this is a draw, but somehow provoked this critical mistake. I don't know why he went back. Did he have some kind of plan to try to win the game? I was way down on time, but with a 10-second increment in this kind of position, that shouldn't matter. And that was a key mistake, because he needs his king to watch over that. Because now he regains his pawn, but he's losing the game. And this mistake accelerates it, because now I put him in Zugzwang, and he just needs to resign. He can't protect his d5 pawn. But even if he's clever about this, and goes here and waits till I'm here to go here, we looked at this earlier, this pawn just runs, and he has to catch it. And now I clean up these pawns, and I mean, we can play out some more moves, but he can step in front with the opposition, but that's not going to matter. I just start pushing this pawn, and the same principle. He's got to back up, and I won't queen this pawn necessarily, but I will get to his other pawns. So he has to stay in front of this pawn to watch it. I mean, if he goes here, I can go here, and now he's got to come and get this pawn, and eventually I'll just clean up over here, and that should be game over. So yeah, another exciting king and pawn ending. Anything can happen in these king and pawn endings. I mean, key mistake gets made in a very simple position with a lot of time left on the clock. And this could happen to anyone. I'm not trying to poke fun at my opponent here. Yeah, but well played on the whole by Vijay Kumar VD. Yeah, a lot to be learned here. So thanks for watching, guys, and stay feisty. I'll see you next time.